You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. What happens when the strongest person on the planet discovers that power alone isn't enough? Kimora Sampson was an Olympic athlete, driven, competitive, determined to be the best. Then a tragic car accident changed everything. Paralyzed from the waist down, the life she knew was gone, until an ancient cosmic force known as the Essence gave her something impossible: the ability to transform into a 6'3", 200-pound powerhouse of unbelievable strength, but only for a limited time. Now, following the success of Strong Issue 0, Kimora Sampson returns in Strong Issue number 1 as the world begins to understand just how powerful she truly is. And not everyone is happy about it. Political forces are moving against her. Mysterious new threats are emerging. And somewhere in the shadows, Magnus and Chivalry have plans of their own. But beneath the superpowers, cosmic forces, and larger-than-life action is the story of a woman discovering that true strength isn't defined by how much you can lift. It's defined by who you are, and everything you thought defined you is taken away. Tonight, we're joined by the creator of Strong and founder and CEO of Visually Stoked Media, JaVon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Nerds is now in session. JaVon, welcome to the council, friend.
Thank you, man. That was great. That sounded amazing coming from you. That was a great read. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. That's I do something special for every creator that comes on, and that intro has to be spot on, man. Trust me.
Thank you.
I went through that thing with a fine-tooth comb, made sure all the details were there, and that it centered on what you created with Visually Stoked, with Strong Issue number 0 and 1. But let's dive into it, man. I know we're on a time crunch tonight. Before we dive into Strong, though, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey into comics and what ultimately led you to becoming a creator.
Well, my journey into comics is kind of like everybody else's. I grew up reading comics from a very young age. I honestly don't remember a time in my life where I wasn't at least looking at the pictures. So I've loved them my entire life. And it wasn't until, I went to SCAD for college that I actually thought about really making a career of it. But I ended up shifting to 3D animation. But even during 3D animation, the love of it never left me. So I decided to try it out. And I did my first book, and it was like a horror book. And it was not good.
Okay.
Not good at all.
Hey, it's horror, though,
Yeah. So the book is actually going to come out, though. That book, I've retooled it, but that's another story.
See, you live, you learn, you refine.
Yes.
You run it back.
Yes. So when I finished getting my degree, I decided, I want to do this. And if I don't do it now, it'll never get done. So I sat down and I did the first issue of my first book, Heat, and it's been like a roller coaster ever since. It's just kind of built up momentum. until I get to Strong, and I did my second character Strong, and here we are now.
So
that's kind of that's the Reader's Digest version.
Dude, I love that version of it. The short, sweet, gets all the points across, and we're good to go on it. Was there a character that kind of made you fall in love with comic books?
Character made me fall. I would probably say Robin, Nightwing.
Okay, that's a good one, dude.
I don't know
hear that one often, which is
I don't know what it was, because the love of Robin, even when I read comics, I grew up watching the Batman Adam West show.
Yeah.
And I everybody likes Batman. I like Robin. Number one, I love the design of the character, except for the shorts.
The tights.
Yeah, tights are fine, but you can't be wearing a Speedo.
That was
always too. Yeah. So and then my love of Dick Grayson, the character, went from there to becoming Nightwing, and I'm a big George Perez fan.
Yeah.
So New Teen Titans just blew my mind. And they gave him his own arc. So I felt like I was growing up with Dick Grayson. So I want to say that was probably my first real character that I love, and I still love Nightwing to this day.
Dude, that's legit, man. And shout out to Nightwing, man. He doesn't get enough love as far as when I ask that question. And I think you're the very first person to ever say Dick Grayson is the dude that got me to stay with comic books.
Listen, if I ever get a chance at DC, if any editor from DC Comics is listening, I'm dying to do a Nightwing run.
That's what's up, man. He's gotten some good ones too.
Yeah.
But let's meet Strong.
Yes.
For anyone discovering this series for the first time tonight, who is Kimora Sampson and what is Strong? Give us the elevator pitch.
Well, the elevator pitch is kind of what I tell people, of course, someone's doing fireworks today. I tell people it's the story it's a day in the life of the strongest superhero on the planet. Just happens to be a 6'2", half black, half Latina powerhouse. That's what I used to tell people when I was doing Strong number 0, because, the whole twist in the end of the book, spoilers, is that you find out that she's, her alter ego is a paralyzed young lady in a wheelchair. What I would tell people now is it's kind of the personification of the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Her power is fueled by her soul, so she's able to transform from a paraplegic to a powerhouse. But it really is a story of understanding your limitations and breaking through them.
So before coming Strong, Kimora was actually an Olympic athlete whose life changed after a tragic car accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. Why was it important to establish who Kimora was before introducing us to the power that she has?
If you've read Strong number 0, I actually did the opposite. I showed you her in her power before I showed you her before I showed you her alter ego. Now it's really important that you see that she was exceptional before she became a superhero. She was exceptional before she became paralyzed. So you see her after now being paralyzed, and you see her continue to be exceptional regardless of if she's powered or not.
Yeah. So where did this idea for Kimora in the world of Strong come from?
Well, she is part of Heat's universe, and Heat's universe is built on the foundation that at the Big Bang, there were 4 Genesis powers. They are the personification of the soul, which is the essence, the personification of light and heat and fire, which is the illumination, which heat powers heat. There is the Ebon, which is the darkness, the cold, which is Heat's arch nemesis, the black flame. And then there's the personification of all things, all tactile things, all solid things, which is the solid. And I wanted to kind of delve into those powers. And when I got to the essence, originally the character was a lot more flowery, for lack of a better term. But I thought a lot about the spirit is strong, the flesh is weak. And so I said, well, if the spirit is strong, why not just make her a powerhouse? Like literally make her the strongest superhero on the planet. So it kind of went from there. And then I thought, well, it would be really cool if the strongest superhero on the planet was kind of stuck in the body of somebody who is not always physically strong. And I thought it would be a really good, way to kind of bounce those ideas off each other.
It's a great concept, man. And it's just such a cool thing that I haven't seen before in kind of like this, I don't want to say iteration, but in this form of it. So, but you have said that strong represents the powerful women in your life. The women in your life influenced the creation of Kimora.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I said, how did the women in your life influence the creation of Kimora?
So she's kind of a hodgepodge of a few women. Physically, she's kind of based off a friend of mine who started doing bodybuilding. And she became like just amazing, like physical specimen. So she's physically based off her, but personality, she's a little bit of my mom, a little bit of all my female friends. Like she really is like a hodgepodge. And I wanted to do something that women could read and feel like somebody's understands what a male can understand what they're thinking. And in not a shallow way, like the insecurities, the strengths, the ups, the downs. I was really, really interested in writing as full of a character, like a real full woman character.
No, dude, I think there needs to be more stories like that. To be fair, there's not enough of them that represents women in this way. But when Kimora loses her physical abilities that once defined her identity as an Olympic athlete, how much of her story is about discovering who she is when everything she thought defined her is just taken away in just an instant?
So when the story picks up, it picks up from a place where she kind of has already started to figure out her new place in life, her new status quo. And then it's kind of one of those memento things. I'm going to show you where she is, and then we're going to look and see how she got there. And I didn't want to spend, one of the things I really didn't want to do is woe is me. I didn't want to do an entire, oh my gosh, I'm paralyzed now, life sucks. Like she is a go-getter, like we are already past that modeling stage to this is who I am. Now, how does this new person live?
Yeah. Shout out to Nightmares and Nerdscapes, man. One of the best horror podcasts on YouTube, in my opinion, and a great friend of mine. So shout out to him. Happy Friday, bro. Let's talk about the essence, man. This is literally what has transformed Kimora. And it's an ancient cosmic force. What exactly, though? I know you explained it a little bit earlier when you gave your elevator pitch, but what exactly is the essence?
So it really is the essence of every soul, of every living thing. In Heat, you find out that all the Genesis powers kind of to create life, they all kind of bounced and mixed and mingled to create all life. And once they finished, once life is kind of set, the powers began to die. And the only way that they could sustain themselves is to find living beings to attach themselves to.
Okay.
So the essence only, it kind of it kind of makes you more of what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And she's already a strong individual, and it just magnifies that.
Mm-hmm. So, how much of the mythology behind what you just referred to, the essence in these four, we'll call them pillars, have you developed behind the scenes? Like, right now, you've only written about Kimora and the essence. Are we going to see the rest of those in future issues?
So Heat is one of the Genesis avatars. So if you're interested in seeing the illumination and how the illumination works,
Mm-hmm.
you can read Heat. Heat actually has more books. I have a graphic novel and three individual issues. So, you can always read that. And you can also see the Ebon, which is the one of the four in Heat as well. And then the Solid, it's coming. It's coming.
Nice.
I don't want to talk too much about it,
Yeah.
but you're going to see all four. And you're also going to find out, where they came from and who they were running from.
Oh, so they're running from something too. That's
I'm not saying nothing else. That's all. You
Okay.
got an exclusive, man. I gave you an exclusive.
I like it. I love a good exclusive here. But Kimora can transform into a 6'3", 200-pound powerhouse of unbelievable strength. But it's only for short periods of time.
Right.
Why was it important to give one of the world's most powerful superheroes such a significant limitation?
So I'm a big Green Lantern fan too.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I love,
Okay. I see it now.
Yeah, the battery. So the
Yep.
essence basically props her body up. So when she's strong, it fixes her.
Mm-hmm.
But it does take a lot of energy to fix her. So, if you read the book, in the new book, I have a little like a counter, so you can see her power ebb and flow.
Yeah,
Right.
I always enjoy seeing like the counter or something like that.
Yes.
For like, what's it for and what's it do?
Yep.
Why is there a counter? I can't remember. Was it an X-Men book or an Avengers book that had one of those? And I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, it was just like you didn't know originally what it was for, and then you learn later on why it keeps counting down. So,
Well, this is more along the lines of Spawn.
Ooh,
I'm a
okay. Yeah,
90s
Spawn.
kid.
It was Spawn. It was Spawn.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm a 90s kid, so
Yep.
I was there for the beginning of Spawn, and I remember the counter. So
And they just threw that out the window.
Right, that's gone now. But for Strong, she has to go back to being Kimora to let the battery recharge.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, he's got a great point. It adds the tension to the scene.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So yeah, it was, but it's also, if you're gonna have the strongest superhero on the planet, you have to give them limitations to make stories good. I am not a big fan of these, the comic book characters that are uber powerful, and because then you're like, well, why am I reading this book if you're so powerful, and then we have to keep ratcheting up so the villains are even more and more and more powerful. You get to a point where, all right, this is absurd. Like, I don't care.
It becomes unbelievable.
Right.
Like it exceeds what's in your head and in your imagination at a certain point, to where it's like you originally started reading comic books for, yes, we know they're real, but they had some type of realism to them. But once that realism is gone and we're definitely way into this fantasy realm, it kind of loses it, right?
I'm old enough to remember when X-Men characters used to pass out from using their powers too much.
Jean Grey was notorious for that.
Storm,
I think Jubilee, Storm.
Like
I think the only one that never really did it was Wolverine, but he could exhaust himself to a point in a few issues where he would be out for weeks on end after a really bad fight. Yeah.
Now it's like he gets in a nuke, he gets blown up, and he's fine in like 20 minutes. And I think that's missing in comics and superheroes. I think everybody's rushing to make their characters so powerful that you just don't see heroes with feet of clay from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, Batman is, you know, I make the joke all the time. Batman used to get beat up by random criminals in you know, the comics and
back in the early days of Detective Comics,
or even Batman the animated series. Like I remember him just he would get beat up by, you know, Joe Blow, you know.
I remember when Alfred, we used to have to pick him up in the Batmobile.
Right. But now it's to the point where Batman's so good, he should never struggle with like the average crook.
Yeah.
And
I think that's something they kind of fixed in the Absolute universe. Is Batman can take a beating. He does take beatings in the Absolute universe, but still he's Batman at the end of the day.
Yep. So
but
that was very important to me.
Let's transition into Strong issue 0. It introduced readers to Kimora and begin the journey. What did you learn from creating and releasing issue 0 into releasing issue 1? I mean, you're seasoned at this point. You've got a couple of titles underneath your belt, but dude, if I say this all the time, if you're not learning something new or different on a daily basis, are you really living life?
Right. Oh, what did I learn? Well, I think I'm a better artist and a better storyteller. What did I learn? I learned that there was a market for it. I was very worried that I was going to do a female superhero and nobody was going to pay attention to it. And, you know, the first few years, it's been a few years since I released Strong number 0. It's still one of my best selling books. I go to cons with, you know, 30, 40 copies and walk out with none. So
it's definitely one of those really cool niches where you don't see a whole lot of superheroes with a disability as well as an ability. So it's definitely a niche there, I feel, amongst parents and kids.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely for women specifically. Like, I can't tell you how many times, you know, a young woman, an older woman would come up to me and say they love the character design. You know, they love the fact that the costume is something that they could cosplay and not feel uncomfortable in. Yeah, that was like a big thing for a lot of women, and I purposely tried to design it this way, but I was very happy that it was received that way, because you never know, you know. So that's what if 0 taught me anything, it's people were ready for this and people wanted more. But it was very daunting, because I was like, well, how do I it's almost like if you make a great movie and people are ready for the sequel. Like, how do I follow this up? And I think when I got the idea, I thought, this is it. And when I was able to go full blast, everything fell into place.
So what changes when you move from introducing a character to building an ongoing series around them like you have?
So I would say I purposely didn't introduce a lot of the backstory, a lot of the background and the backstory of the character in Strong number 0, because it was more important to me that you kind of get to know the character, like the person, and the two main characters of the book. So I wanted her to be a little bit mysterious, because I wanted it to be, because if I had done all of the introduction 0 in 0, I don't know if a lot of people would want to pick up number 1. But now I feel like if you want to find out more about Kimora, like, you know about Strong, but do you want to know more about Kimora? Now you can read number 1, and it kind of gives people incentive to pick up 1, even if I don't have any copies of 0. Like if I sell out a zero, you can
Yeah.
still pick up number one and not feel like I don't
You're
know
missing
what's going on.
something.
Yeah.
That, dude, I always appreciate that too, because anytime I see issue 0, I'm thinking in my head, this is the prequel story to issue number 1. And then if I'm not able to get that prequel story and I pick up at issue 1 and it feels like I'm completely lost, then I am like the most disappointed. You know, I'm like a man child at that point. I'm like, what is this? You know, I'm like, there's all this stuff going on and none of it makes sense.
So
And you're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm a big proponent of every book is somebody's first. So even if they pick, I've gone to Comic-Cons and I've run out of books and only had number 3 of Heat. But the way I write my books, and I put as much, I'm not, and I mean this with all due respect.
This is a really good question. With the love of Dick Grayson, are there any shades of another paralyzed hero involved from an inspirational standpoint?
Probably like Daredevil.
Okay. I don't know if he was leaning more toward the Oracle.
Actually, no. I take it back. I was very influenced by, this is a deep cut. Okay.
Oh, I like a good deep cut.
I am a big New Warriors fan.
Okay.
Huge New Warriors fan. And there's a character called Silhouette.
Yeah.
She's paralyzed, but she has like the crutches and she's beating up people on crutches. I've always thought that was so cool. So she was a little bit of inspiration for that too.
No, that's a really good one actually, and not very brought up often. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But
to my original point, I put recaps. No worries. It's fine. I put recaps of in every book.
Okay.
Every book has a recap inside the front cover. Every book has a blurb about the origin of the character. It's really important to me that you don't, because I grew up in a time where you pick up issue number 245 and you're like, and you just go with it.
Yeah. Dude, that's very, I'm guessing you're in your 40s like I am.
I am in my 40s, yeah.
Yeah, that was so common for our generation.
It's so common, but
the
it's
grocery
not
store or wherever. And that one comic book on the shelf that's left there is kind of like an X-Men, like 137 or whatever, and there's nothing in the front of it or nothing behind it. So you're kind of stuck with issue 137, but the last issue you got at home was 125.
Right.
So it was like a whole arc basically missing, but you still, for the love of the game, right? You still picked up that X-Men and you still took it home and you still read it like it was the best thing you ever read, and you're lost as hell.
So my dad was a big comic book creator. Not creator, excuse me. Comic book collector. And actually him and my uncles, they have one of the largest comic book collections out there. They have a ton of books. And I believe he left me a few books. He gave me a few books. Not left me, he gave me a few books. And one of those books, and I got this book when I was young, was X-Men, is it 137? It's the Death of Dark Phoenix.
Ooh.
And I remember, and I'm young, so I don't understand how valuable this book is. Remember this. I don't know. So I read it a bajillion times. But I had no clue what was going on prior to this issue. But I loved the crap out of that book.
Yep, X-Men 137.
Yes. It's one of the first books I remember reading. And I had no clue. It's probably why I love Cyclops too. I'm a big Cyclops. It's probably the root of one of the reasons why I love Cyclops.
I have said this for many years. Me and Kelvin, another guy over at the Smoke Pit, Willie McCoy, a bunch of the fellas here on the podcast network, we have said for the longest time that people sleep on Cyclops.
Oh yeah.
And
he's getting his shine now.
He's finally getting his shine with X-Men
finally
97, but like it's like, what the hell? I'm like, you're just now highlighting what we've known for years now.
I was a fan of Cyclops even during, I've been since the 80s.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I have been a fan of Cyclops through all of the time. When they clowned him in the X-Men movie, when they killed him off screen in X3.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, like I have been a fan. We're
getting into that territory where I just get disappointed now, man. I can't talk about those X-Men movies. They're just so horrible.
I keep telling people I have not seen a great X-Men movie yet.
I don't think we will, man. I honestly don't think we will.
Well,
even the origins of Wolverine wasn't good. There was a lot of important stuff left out of that.
There have been some decent ones. Like First Class was decent. Days of Future Past was okay once you look past Kitty Pryde having the ability to go back in time.
Yeah.
What was the other one? After that, I kind of tapped out. Logan was
that's
good.
True too. X2 with Nightcrawler, and it's because of Nightcrawler though.
Yeah,
that's another dude who don't get enough love. Although the new comic book runs have been giving Nightcrawler a lot of good love lately.
This X2, I have a love-hate relationship with it, just because they clown Cyclops again. Like they just keep finding ways to clown him in the movie. So it's So when I don't know. I that's why I love X-Men 97. I love it because it is everything I love about X-Men, and they give shine to people other than Wolverine.
Yeah.
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 But Cyclops is why I love X Factor. I was a big X Factor fan. I was Blue Team. I was X-Men Blue Team.
You're the guy.
Yeah, he's my guy. He's my favorite X-Man with Gambit.
So Gambit's my boy, and man, one of the most tragic love stories ever written in a comic book, dude. It's still heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you would get me emotional, man. Let's
talk
about.
We'll switch topics. No tears.
Let's talk about Strong #1, man. So
all right.
In issue 1, it begins to explore what happens when the world realizes just how powerful Kimora is, and then we see political figures are beginning to move in different directions to kind of make her life a little bit more difficult. But what happens when the most powerful superhero on the planet becomes someone the people in power cannot control?
So that goes back to issue 0. Again, spoilers, earmuffs for if you haven't read it and you want to read it. Big part of issue 0 is she's being interviewed by a news reporter who wants to get to know her. And it's this kind of dance, this kind of personality dance between, her and this individual, this reporter. And by the end of the book, her and the reporter kind of become friends. And the big twist of the reporter is actually a federal agent tasked to get information on Strong, because in this universe, any superpowers are illegal. Like there's no such thing as being a superhero because it's against the law. So
that's kind of wild though, that like you can't pick and choose that. If it happens, it happens, right?
Our government has a long history of trying to control everybody.
Fair enough.
So the reporter is actually, an FBI agent who's tasked to monitor her and basically come up with ways to take her out. And so we pick up with that thread in things. We in Strong #1, where the friendship remains because Strong has no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
Really is. And, you know, the reporter / agent gets new marching orders, and those new marching orders are there to make Strong's life very difficult.
Yeah. So you can't necessarily like punch your way through politics and public opinion and manipulation. So how do you create meaningful threats for someone as physically as powerful as Strong? And this is one of what you were just describing is probably that's the way to do it, right?
That, and one of the big, I forgot who was it, Mark Waid? I'm a big Mark Waid guy. And Mark Waid, when he was talking about Superman, you know, he was talking about how you, like you said, the threats can't just be punch for punch. You said it very well. So that's always stuck with me, and especially with his characters. So the best way to do Superman, and it's one of the reasons why I loved Superman and Lois, the recent
the
CW
newest one,
show. Loved it.
Yeah.
Because they did a great job of making conflicts that he just couldn't punch his way out of.
Yeah.
And
they're such a good Lois and Clark, dude.
Yes.
They're like, I don't know what it is. The chemistry they had on screen, just them together in general were so damn good.
And they're really nice people, though. I got to meet them both.
Yeah, I was supposed to say they are some really nice people.
So nice people, incredibly nice. They were really nice. I got to meet them at a Comic-Con last year. But it had a really good premise that allowed for problems. Because the point of us reading these stories is how does the hero get out of the problem? Not always how does the hero beat up the villain? Because that gets boring.
Yeah,
you know, like it's really boring.
Eventually, you're gonna have to use your mind,
right,
to do a little punching as well.
Right, and so that is always one of the things that is in the forefront of my brain. You know, my job, as much as I love my characters, is how do I make their lives a living hell?
Yeah, that's spot on. Speaking of a living hell, and let's go here. So we have these mysterious forces who are entering the picture with Magnus and Chivalry. Without spoiling anything, what can you tell us about Magnus and Chivalry and what their arrival means for the larger world of Strong? That's a good segue.
Magnus is it Magnus or Magnus? I believe it's Magnus. Magnus. Sorry, I have so many ideas in my head. Magnus is a warrior who's. All I'll say about the two characters is Magnus is a warrior who doesn't believe she's the strongest around. And Chivalry is maybe some help.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much.
No, I don't want you to spoil too much. I mean, you've already gave us some deep cuts here and some exclusives. I don't want to get too many out of those. Out of you. I want you to save some for the book.
Oh, I've got a lot. I haven't even scratched the surface. Let's go.
Let's build the world of Strong. You've said that one of the things you're most excited about is deepening this world around Strong, including her family, friends, and also her new enemies. How important are the relationships to understanding who Kimora really is?
So, again, I'm an old school guy. So most of the books I grew up reading, the heroes had like extensive supporting casts.
Oh yeah.
Everybody
had a team that back in the 90s.
Well, it wasn't like I feel like the CW, as much as I love those shows, they forgot that it's okay for the hero not to have a giant support system who knows that the hero is the secret identity. And I wanted to get back to secret identities matter. And they're important because they ground the hero in reality. So they're not always like, they don't always have to be a superhero. And so, you know, her supporting cast includes her mother, her brother, She has a best friend that she works with. And of course, the aforementioned, reporter / FBI agent. This is just the beginning. Again, I grew up when Spider-Man, his supporting cast was so freaking large. I mean, he had the people at the Daily Bugle, and then the people who he went to college with, and then his family. And there were all these people whose stories you cared about and whose lives would then somehow intersect with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they made his life difficult, but they also enriched his life. And I'm from that school, and that's where I wanted to go with Strong. More to do with Heat as well.
So when you're creating someone with extraordinary abilities, how do you make sure that human being underneath the superhero remains the most important part of the story?
So one of the great pieces of advice that I ever read on Twitter was there was this writer.
Rarity.
I know, right?
A great piece of advice on Twitter?
Yes.
Shit.
Great writing. And the writer talked about how the seed of the story has to be the center and the seed of the story has to be grounded and compelling. Everything else attached to it is just window dressing. And he used the analogy of Die Hard. And he was saying how Die Hard, if you strip away the terrorists and the gunfights and the Nakatomi Plaza, it's about a broken marriage that is trying to come back together.
Yeah, at the heart of it, yeah.
And that is what compels us. That's what compels us to keep watching. Is, McClane gonna make it back to his wife? Is the wife's, are the terrorists gonna learn that that's his wife? Like, that's what kept you engaged, because everything else can be static. Right?
Yeah.
And you see this with a lot of movies where the seed isn't strong enough.
I'm live.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no. I was talking to Mom.
The seed isn't strong enough, and the world building is great, but you don't care because you don't care about the character. Because you didn't take enough time to make the seed, no pun intended, strong enough.
Yeah.
And
so since you brought up Die Hard, I got to ask you, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes, it's a Christmas movie. I watch it every Christmas.
Come on, people. See, multiple times I've proved this to be fact. Prove this fact once more.
It's a Christmas movie. I'm not going to argue on it, but it's Christmas. But it continues, and once I read that in Twitter, I started dissecting every one of my favorite movies. And that's like one of my favorite movies is The Game, with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn.
Okay, yeah.
And I broke it down and I was like, what is The Game really about? The game isn't about the game. The game is about what is valuable about life. Like when you strip this one guy, it's about stripping somebody down to see what's valuable about their life.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it to every single book, comic book, movie, and it helps me as a writer because now before I create a character, I go, what do I want to do? What's the point here? And then everything grows from that because everything becomes a metaphor for it.
Yeah. Dude, I like that. And I think you said it a lot better than Shrek did when he said Shrek is like an onion because onions have layers.
Yes, that too. That works too. It works too.
Anytime I start hearing people like start talking about peeling away layers of a story, I'm like, oh, like Shrek. Shrek is an onion and onions have layers. And then all I can hear is Donkey go, parfaits have layers.
Right. And one of the things, that I try to do with my writing to make each character feel like a character is there has to be a nugget or two in the book that tells you a little something about the character. And it doesn't have to be big. It could just be like, they like Reese's Pieces.
Ooh,
or, they always have to listen to white noise to go to bed.
Mhm.
But for me, and it's just for me, I feel like that's how these characters become real.
Yeah.
Because then somebody who likes Reese's goes, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And
dude,
then
that's
they're
a
hooked.
classic. That's a classic. You can't go wrong with Reese's.
I actually don't like Reese's.
We're going to
I
pretend you
don't
didn't
like
say
the
that, and we're going to instead talk about Visually Stoked Media.
The combination of peanut butter and chocolate doesn't react well with me.
Really? Oh, man.
I don't like any chocolate and peanut or peanut butter dessert.
Wow. That's
See, now you learned something new about me. This
we
is
did,
what
and I don't know if that's I don't know about. I'm kind of taking
it's
for
okay.
words
It's
here.
all right. I lived 40-something years alive.
Just give me a second. I gotta
That's
process
okay.
this.
I'll let you process. To quote New Girl, you process that however you need to process it.
Let's talk about Visually Stoked Media, man.
All right, let's do it.
Because you didn't just simply create Strong, you built Visually Stoked Media as well. What inspired you to start your own publishing company?
So I've been doing the entrepreneur game for over 20 plus years. Oh, appreciate you. Those are two of my favorite movies. I love them. Yeah. I have a lot of favorite movies. I've been doing the entrepreneur thing for a long time. So Visually Stoked has had a lot of different names, but it's always been what I've used when I do. I do a lot of freelance artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And originally I was going to pitch my first book, Heat, to somebody.
Yeah.
But the more I learned about the industry and the more I learned about comics in general, I saw so many people doing it themselves and so many people building their own publishing houses. So I was like, well, I mean, I can do that. Like, I can find a printer. I'm already doing all the artwork. I'm already doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? So from that point, that's when I started doing Heat. And, I've published, this is my 9th comic book.
Okay.
I just published a children's book last year.
Oh, nice.
And I've done a bunch of different things. I've done, I just did a book a cover to a book, a novel, this year.
Okay.
This year. It's called, was it A Billion? I forget the name of it. I'm sorry. If you're watching it,
you're good. I'm sure they understand.
Yeah. So I just use it as a vessel to do whatever I want to do. Like I said, I'm doing a horror book right now. I'm beginning the script for it, and I want to do animation at a certain point. As I said, my degree is in 3D animation, so I know how to do pretty much the whole thing, start to finish.
Yeah.
So I have this first script for a Heat cartoon. The first pass of it done. I want to do a novel, so I want to publish my own novel.
Mm-hmm.
So I just use it. I would like it to grow to become a creative studio in which I can let my imagination run wild.
Dude, I loved it, man. And I hear this story like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a month, and I never get tired of hearing the entrepreneurial spirit, thriving and surviving in today's world that we live in, where it's not really built for us to do these things, but we are still doing them,
right?
Despite people trying to block us from doing what we do. But independent creators today are expected to create, publish, market, distribute, and build their own audiences. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned about the business of independent comics? And that business is it's booming, but also it's a big business.
A couple of lessons. One, money moves mountains. So
number one,
much as
money.
money we need money to do this. So, and I mean more than just sales. Like, you got to use your own money a lot of time. Yeah. And so, I've funded my business from the beginning. So that's the one thing. And then two, the biggest thing I probably learned is it's not a race. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no finish line. You're not racing against anybody. I've kind of learned I got to, take my time, build my readership one book at a time, and, be intentional about everything you're doing. Like, take a minute, come up with a plan, and then do that plan. And just keep pivoting. If this part doesn't work, okay, do this. Pivot this part, and just like be undeniable. Like, you have to be unstoppable. Like, you cannot. And there have been so many times where I have wanted to quit, or I have thought, you know what, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Mm-hmm. And then something will happen that will go, no, you're supposed to do this. It's just not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
And
if it was easy, everybody would do it.
If it was easy, everybody would do it. One of my favorite quotes is, there's no success without struggle. And so it gets frustrating because I have so many contemporaries, so many friends who are doing so well. And it's hard not to look and go, all right, well, when's my time coming? When's my time coming? Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, when you talk to them, they've been doing it for a while. And they're looking at other people and they're like, well, when is my time coming?
Yeah.
We're all looking at each other going, when is my time coming? And the truth is, just work. Just do the work. Get out there, make your audience. And I do this a lot. I constantly have to remind myself of the person I was 15 years ago, mm-hmm. who didn't even have a one page done.
Yeah.
That version of me would look in awe at where I am now.
Dude, you got 9 books.
I just have to keep remembering that.
It's continuing to grow, man.
Yeah.
So you actually have Strong #1 available through select comic book shops, independent bookstores, Amazon, digital, and directly through your website. What have you learned about actually getting your book into the hands of readers? That's one of the biggest complaints you always hear is, like, how do I get this to people, and how do I get people to discover my book?
Well, the truth of the matter is, you need two things. You need social media, which I struggle with because I'm old.
We all do, man, because it does this so often. Yeah. Like, you find your groove, and then you might have that groove for a week, a month, 3 months, and then that groove is gone.
Right. So you need social media, but you also need to be out there. You need to be at every Comic-Con, every farmer's market, every event every vending event possible. Like, there was a period, this is a slow year for me, but last year and the year before and the year before that, I was doing 15 to 35 events a year.
I want people to think about that for a second.
52 weeks in a year.
35 events. And we're talking anywhere from $100 to $500 a booth or a table.
Yeah.
Of his own money.
And that doesn't include travel.
Yeah.
Or
hotel, food.
Food, all that.
Yeah.
Like
the printing of the books.
And printing of the book. Like, you have to budget well, and you have to get out there, because you're never going to sell your book better than when you're in front of somebody, because the truth is, nobody cares about your book. You're not Spider-Man, you're not Batman. You're not invincible, you're not Walking Dead. Nobody cares. You have to make people care, and the best way to make people care is for you to stand in front of them and tell them why they should care.
Make them care.
You got to make them care. So
My
those are
favorite
the
was
two
Stan.
biggest pieces of advice. If you get good at social media and you get your butt out there, and you will sell books. If you have a
Yep.
quality product, you will sell books. I don't want to say guarantee, but you know.
This is a good question, and I know we're getting short on time here.
Okay, I'll
But
take it.
as a creative and a businessman, how do you keep yourself from trend chasing and focusing on what you're really passionate about?
I don't follow trends. I write stories that I want to see. As I said, I love horror. I've wanted to do a horror book. I told you my first book was a horror book.
Mhm.
I did my characters because I love superheroes, and they help scratch my itch of superhero. If I want to do a superhero, I'll do a strong book or I do a heat book. I want to do a horror book now, so I'm going to do a horror book.
He is the horror guy.
Hey, listen, you can email me. But
I'll shoot him your email.
perfect. But so I want to do a horror book, but I was just talking to my cousin, maybe 30 minutes ago, and I told him, I kind of want to write a novel too. So I do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
The audience will find me. If I chase trends all day, I don't feel like it would be authentic.
Yeah. All right. I know we got to start wrapping things up now, but look, what's next, man? What's the future holding for Kimora? What's the future holding for JaVon, for Visually Stoked Media, man?
For Kimora, after I finish the script, after I get my horror thing out, actually I'm gonna do my horror book, and I'm gonna do Strong #2 at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I'll have Strong #2 done by the beginning of the next year. I know, guys, it takes a long time for me because I'm literally writing, drawing, coloring, inking, lettering, doing everything. So,
which is dope because a lot of people don't do that.
Right. So what's next for Kimora is Strong #2, and the fallout from from what happens in #1 and the twist at the end. And what's coming next for me, I have 2 big projects that I'm not able to talk about yet that I'm looking forward to doing. I should be starting one of them soon and the other in the fall. The horror book, which is called Irreconcilable, hopefully will be done by the end of the year. I'm probably going to do, I've had a lot of requests to do a coloring book. So I might do one with my superheroes with both of them in it, Heat and Strong, which I think would be really cool. It'll be their first crossover before their first crossover.
That'd be essentially a really cool way to do it.
And then Visually Stoked, the big thing that I really want to do is do a cartoon. And I know it's going to take some time. I'm in no rush, but it'll get done.
I love it, dude. Any parting shots, man?
Listen. So for those people that pre-ordered the book, there's still time to pre-order the book because I've been looking for a new printer. The books have not been printed yet.
Yeah, and we lost a printer this week.
Yes. So I'm looking for. I probably have settled on the new printer, so the new books will be printed in the next couple of weeks. No, you're good. So you still have time to pre-order Heat at visuallystoked.com/strong.
I love it, dude. JaVon, thank you for joining us tonight and introducing the Council of Nerds to Kimora into the world of Strong. Strong #1 is available, as he just said, and you can find the book and learn more about everything happening with Visually Stoked Media at visuallystoked.com. Make sure you follow Visually Stoked Media on Instagram and X to keep up with Strong and everything JaVon is building nets. Most importantly, support independent creators, discover new stories, and keep indie comics alive. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Nerds is now adjourned. This has been the USDN Podcast, where indie comics come to life. Y'all be safe. Happy weekend.
It's a trap!